Subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon for the latest updates and notifications. Hello everyone, today I'm here to investigate a science and education zone. Located at the easternmost end of the Shandong Peninsula is the city of Rongcheng. It is a county-level city under the administration of Weihai. Rongcheng has a coastline of 500 kilometers with 10 bays and 115 islands along the coast. Among them, Shidao Port is one of the largest fishing ports in Shandong province. Since the opening of the Yilong port in 1989, Shidao Port has attracted laborers from all over the country to engage in related work. The city has a complete music industry chain, supporting local economic development. With the intensification of competition in nearshore fisheries, deep-sea fishing has begun to emerge. In Peru, located in the Southeast Pacific, there is one of the world's 4 major fishing grounds. It is abundant in various fish species and has rich aquatic resources, making it a preferred location for fishing companies worldwide. However, it is quite far from China, and sailing there not only takes a long time, but also involves many uncertainties. Therefore, recruiting crew members for fishing is not an easy task. Docked at Shidao Port in Shandong is a vessel named Lurongyu Non 2682. It is an ocean-going oil tanker that operates year-round in the Pacific Ocean. It measures 37 meters in length, 7 meters in width, has a displacement of 233 tons, and a main engine power of 330 kilowatts. The ship is divided into 3 levels. The first level is the deck area, the second level is the crew cabin, and the third level. The captain has been serving on Lurongyu Non 2682 since 2000 and has completed 4 fishing operations, accumulating 10 years of experience at sea. In 2010, Lurongyu No. 2682 set sail again for Peru and Chilean waters for fishing operations. However, no one could have anticipated the horrific events that unfolded on the ship afterwards. On October 25, 2010, the planned departure day for Lurongyu No. 2682 was postponed due to the incomplete crew recruitment. According to the pre-established plan, the fishing vessel was supposed to sail to the Southeast Pacific, specifically Peru and Chilean waters, for a 2-year fishing expedition. The recruitment of crew members had been ongoing, but it seemed to face difficulties as many individuals had various reasons for not joining. Some were concerned about the uncertainties of long-distance voyages and the high risks associated with being at sea for 2 years. Company A, responsible for managing Lurongyu No. 2682, decided to increase salaries and expedite the recruitment of suitable crew members. The company also implemented an internal referral mechanism, offering additional rewards for successfully recommending others to join the crew. The fishing expedition will last for 2 years. The crew receives basic meals and a base salary of 1,000 yen per month, along with a guaranteed annual income of 45,000 yen. They also receive a bonus of yen 0, 4 per kilogram of squid caught, increasing to yen 0, 5 after a certain threshold. An additional yen 400 bonus is given for every ton of squid purchased. The recruitment information states that even without catching fish, crew members can still earn over 100,000 yuan in 2 years, which is attractive compared to regular jobs. After 2 months of recruitment, 35 crew members were hired for Lurongyu No. 2682. Some crew members, including Chef Master Yanqing from Dalian, had been living on the ship for a month. At 8 o'clock that evening, the crew members gathered on the ship, playing cards and chatting with each other. The chef suddenly ran up to everyone, shouting that there was a murderer on board. The crew members were startled, and some hid in the cabin, afraid to come out, while others bravely searched the ship for the assailant, but found nothing. However, the chef continued to shout. The shouting persisted intermittently until midnight. Captain Li Chengquan couldn't bear it any longer and confronted the chef. After giving him a stern scolding, the chef finally calmed down. He returned to the crew quarters without saying a word, sitting there in a daze. "Captain, you explained the situation to the other crew members. It turned out that the chef's mother had passed away, and he was mentally disturbed, which led to his abnormal behavior earlier." After hearing this, everyone expressed understanding and no longer blamed the chef. An hour passed, and it was already 1 o'clock in the morning. Several crew members were hungry and got up to find something to eat. During that time, they noticed that the sea cucumbers were also missing, but they assumed the chef had gone to the restroom, so they didn't pay much attention to it. After waiting for a long time without seeing the chef return, everyone became worried and started searching for him. The temperature dropped significantly that night, accompanied by a strong north wind. Unable to find the chef on the ship, the crew members decided to go ashore to look for him. After some time, they found Chef Yan at the borrowed pier in Shidao port. It turned out that he had jumped into the sea earlier. Fortunately, a fishing boat spotted him and rescued him. They learned that after jumping into the sea, Chef Yan struggled for a while, and perhaps due to the winter season and his thick clothing, he floated on the surface for a long time without sinking. Chef Yan left the ship after the turmoil. The relationship between crew member Kui Yong and the new head chef, Shen Yong, became delicate. Kui Yong believed Shen Yong had a bad temper and was pretentious. The position, originally intended for Kui Yong, was changed for unknown reasons. Kui Yong felt it was meant for him and tried to flatter the captain for the position. Lurongyu No. 2682, an old ship, underwent a major overhaul before the scheduled departure in December. Most of the crew members were newly recruited and unaware of any issues. After the repairs, they prepared for the voyage, moving supplies onto the ship with confidence and eagerness to make money. A few days before the fishing boat was about to set sail, one of the crew members, Uncle Wang from Dalian, decided to withdraw from the voyage. His sister thought the duration of the trip was too long and the promised income in the contract wasn't high enough. With Uncle Wang's withdrawal, the number of people on the ship decreased from 35 to 33. In late December, Rongcheng in Shandong was hit by a cold air mass, causing a blizzard and prompting the meteorological department to issue warnings for strong winds and low temperatures at sea. This weather persisted for several days before finally subsiding. After the departure of the cold air mass, the following days welcomed warm winter sunshine. On December 27, 2010, a Monday, the long-distance ship, Content Fish No. 2682, officially set sail on this day, heading to the waters of Peru and Chile for operations. At 12:18 noon, following tradition, firecrackers were lit at the bow of the ship. Content Fish No. 2682 set sail from Shidao port, with a crew of 33, led by Captain Li Chengquan. Among them was Wang Bo, who was pregnant and employed by Dafu Wealthy Agency, as well as Chief Engineer Dong, Daguan, Lun, and Wang Yandong. The crew members hailed from various regions, recruited through personal connections. Notably, 18 members lacked proper seafarer certificates, making their employment illegal. To avoid customs inspections, these individuals would disembark before entering international waters, temporarily replaced by certified crew members from other fishing boats. The ship then headed towards Peru and Chile. Over half of the crew were embarking on their first sea voyage, initially experiencing seasickness, but gradually adjusting to life at sea. Immersed in the boundless sea, they felt a special sense of mystery. Each crew member eagerly anticipated the promised income upon their return from the voyage. Take Wu Guoji, for example. He used to raise pigs and chickens at home, but due to consecutive losses, he decided to go to sea to earn money and repay his debts. Ma Yuchao, a recent college graduate, couldn't find a suitable job after graduation, so he chose to go fishing at sea. Busy with preparations before departure, his parents tried hard to dissuade him, but he joined the crew without hesitation. Prior to setting sail, the 30-plus individuals on board had already started bonding. Some called each other brothers, and they made plans to visit each other's hometowns after their return. The company informed the crew that besides regular meals, no other provisions would be provided. They had to purchase their own daily necessities, but the amount carried on board had to comply with the regulations. Most people brought some food items such as instant noodles, bottled water, beverages and beer. However, one person was a bit peculiar. He applied to the company for an advance payment of tens of thousands of yuan and used it to buy 165 packs of cigarettes. This person's name was Liu Guiduo. He piled up the 165 packs of cigarettes in a corner of his bunk, reaching all the way up to the ceiling. Others were curious and asked him why he bought so many cigarettes. Liu Guiduo said he enjoyed smoking, and during the long voyage, he couldn't afford to deprive himself of cigarettes. But is that really the case? In reality, some situations can be anticipated after setting sail. Although everyone brought some food and drinks, the quantities were limited, and they would eventually run out. After that, they would have to rely on 3 meals a day, and if worst came to worst, they could try catching seafood. However, once the cigarettes were finished, there would be none left, and at that point, cigarettes would become scarce. Liu Guiduo could then sell them at a high price and make a profit. The people on the ship had a favorable impression of Liu Guiduo, considering him righteous and generous. The day before departure, over 10 crew members went out for a meal together, spending 2,000 yen. When it was time to pay, Wang Shusheng suggested splitting the bill evenly, but Liu Guiduo quietly paid for everyone. Liu Guiduo explained that they were about to embark on the voyage, and there was no use in keeping the money since it couldn't be spent on the ship, so he treated them to the meal. This incident left a positive impression on everyone. Crew member Kui Yong had previously worked at a passenger terminal and accidentally set his rental house on fire while playing cards with his co-workers and drinking heavily. Kui's family compensated for part of the damages, but he had to figure out the rest on his own. Kui Yong was subsequently dismissed from the passenger terminal and began searching for a new job to earn money and repay his debts. By chance, he came across a high-paying recruitment advertisement from a fishing company and decided to join as a crew member. Xiang Ligang kept the details of the murder vague, possibly due to his age and prior theft record. The rumor of his crime made others fear and avoid him, leading him to steer clear of trouble. Liu Guiduo, a 26-year-old ex-soldier from Heilongjiang, joined the fishing crew to save money for his dowry and marry his girlfriend. Despite lacking a seafarer's certificate, he was assured that a short-term contract would suffice. For him and many others, the appeal lay in the equal salary and treatment between black workers and certified crew members. Out of the 33 crew members, 18 were black workers, comprising more than half of the team. The ship's destination was the squid-rich waters of Peru and Chile, requiring a minimum 2-month journey from China. During their time at sea, the crew members engaged in card games and conversations to pass the time, each with their own preferences. As relationships grew closer, 4 distinct factions emerged: the Dalian Gang, Heilongjiang Gang, Inner Mongolia Gang, and a neutral faction led by Captain Li Chengquan. The majority of the crew, consisting of 10 members, hailed from Dalian. Renquan, wealthy Wang Haibo, and their closely associated crew members formed the Dalian Gang. Among the officers, Zhigang and Kui Yongyuan were relatives of Second Officer Wang Yongping, while Chief Engineer Yundu and another crew member were professional seafarers and siblings. The Heilongjiang Gang, led by Liu Guiduo, was introduced to the ship through a mediation company in Dalian. It included crew members Jiang Xiaolong, Jinbo, Liu Cheng, and Wang Peng, all originating from Heilongjiang and Dalian. The Inner Mongolia Gang, led by Bao Diguijiri Hu, included Shuangxi from Fushun. When these 4 members were together, they conversed in Mongolian, which the others couldn't understand. These factions added diversity and unique dynamics to life on the ship. Some people describe Bao De as agile and warm-hearted, with decent character. 2 other individuals closely associated with these 4 are Qiu Ronghua and Shang Guoxi. Besides them, there are 12 people without a clear affiliation, forming a neutral faction. The members include Feng Xingye, Mei Lin, Sheng Xiang, Yan Technical College, Song Guochun, Ding Yumin, Manchu Silk Store Chen Guojun, Uncle Junyue Peng, Liu Gang, and Wang Yan. Among them, Wang Yan, Long Yupeng, and Liu Gang are friends of some members in the Dalian Gang, but are not part of the alliance. By early February 2011, the mother-daughter fishing vessel, number 28, had been sailing in the Pacific for half a month. During the Lunar New Year, the crew members used a satellite phone to call their families. Wang Peng shared anecdotes and mentioned good conditions on board. They had an 8-course New Year's dinner. Wang Peng reassured his mother and said he would be back in 2 years. Liu Guiduo spent time alone in his cabin, writing in his notebook. Some people, driven by curiosity, asked him what he was writing. Liu Guiduo explained that he was recording the coordinates of the fishing vessel and the uncertain flavors experienced on board. The exact contents written in his notebook were unclear to others, and they eventually stopped asking. On the last day of August, after 2 months of sailing, Luo Ronghuan successfully arrived in the waters of Peru. Fishing activities began as the crew members prepared for the night fishing. Strong lights with special lenses were set up on both sides of the ship's hull. When it got dark, these lights were turned on, attracting fish to gather around the illuminated areas. The crew members simply had to wait for the fish to bite. In the waters of Peru, there were abundant and large-sized fish, some measuring over a meter in length and weighing from a few kilograms to over 100 kilograms. Some squid had tentacles thicker than a child's arm, requiring 2 people to handle them. This fishing method may appear simple, but it actually requires skill and tests the crew members' visual acuity, speed, and endurance. The difference in catch quantity among crew members could be more than double in a single night. Among them, Liu Guiduo stood out. In the first month, he caught 6 tons of squid. In the second month, he caught 7. And in the third month, his catch reached an astonishing 13 tons, surpassing the others by more than half. However, in the beginning, Liu Guiduo often struggled to properly attach the fish hooks. Despite not being the strongest crew member, Liu Guiduo stood out for his observational skills and ability to learn from experience. His expertise in observing, researching, and using his intellect made him sought after by fellow crew members for advice on oil-dropping techniques. Liu generously shared his insights, resulting in increased catches for everyone. However, Liu's exceptional endurance and willingness to endure hardships allowed him to consistently achieve the highest yields. While the crew initially approached their work with enthusiasm, fatigue eventually set in due to the repetitive, monotonous, and grueling nature of their tasks. Working at night disrupted their sleep schedules, and the intense heat generated by the 2,000-watt spotlight proved scorching. Working under the intense light, the crew members found their eyes tearing up uncontrollably. Even after daybreak, their work continued. The squid had to be cut and categorized, then placed in local animation rooms for further processing. Specialized purchasing vessels would arrive later to buy the squid. Upon arrival, each crew member had to move 50 trays of squid, weighing 15 kilograms each, from the storage area. They tirelessly carried tray after tray, reviving the squid by forcing them to swim. Some crew members went without sleep for 2 consecutive days and nights. Failing to complete the task would affect their performance. Resentment grew among some crew members towards the company's practices, but Liu Guiduo remained silent. He focused on his work, driven by the desire to earn more money. After 3 to 4 months of strenuous labor, the crew's physical stamina reached its limit. Jinbo and Yue fell ill and were confined to their cabins, unable to work. There was no doctor on the ship, and the availability of medicines was limited. They had to rely on their own immune systems to slowly recover from their illnesses. During this time, the 2 individuals felt extremely helpless and entertained the idea of returning home. However, when they contacted the company, their request was firmly denied. Captain Li Chengquan, upon seeing that the 2 crew members couldn't work for a long time, contacted the company and suspended their monthly guaranteed salary of 1,000 yen. Huang Jinbo and Yue Peng were discontented with this decision. They believed that they had worked diligently for such a long time and fell ill due to work exhaustion. Not only did the company fail to provide compensation, but they also withheld their guaranteed salary. The 2 of them confronted Captain Li Chengquan, requesting him not to inform the company and to continue paying their wages. However, Li Chengquan, known for his hot temper, not only firmly refused their request, but also reprimanded them. Although this incident did not directly involve other crew members, everyone witnessed it. It remains unclear who started the argument. Doubts arose regarding wage payments, causing concerns among the crew. If they failed to catch fish, there was uncertainty about receiving the promised 45,000 yen annual minimum salary from the company. Captain Li Chengquan explained the wage structure. The contract guaranteed 45,000 yen per year if no fish were caught. However, once fish were caught, the minimum salary no longer applied, and wages would be based on a 1,000 yen monthly base salary plus commissions. The 1,000 yen was regularly deposited into family members' bank accounts, while the commission would be settled after returning in 2 years. Some crew members calculated their potential earnings. Even if they worked as diligently as Liu Guiduo, who caught 26 tons of fish in 3 months, they would only receive 10,400 yen, averaging just over 3,400 yen per month. In contrast, the guaranteed minimum salary of 45,000 yen per year would average around 3,750 yen per month. For those with lower catch quantities, earnings would be even lower than expected. The crew members realized they had been deceived by the company and anger spread among them as they confronted Captain Li Chengquan. However, after the captain reprimanded the instigators, no one dared to speak up. At that moment, the ship was in the waters of Peru, far away from China, making it unrealistic for them to immediately quit and leave. So the crew members went back to their usual work routines. The management team, led by Captain Li Chengchun and consisting of 5 individuals from the Dalian faction, were tall and intimidating, making the crew members hesitant to cause trouble. Many crew members felt that Captain Li Chengquan was unfair in his actions and consistently favored the members of the Dalian faction, which indirectly intensified conflicts among the crew. It was known that Qin Yong, who had been trying to curry favor with the captain since boarding the ship, obtained a privileged position as a result. This allowed him to receive an extra yen, 200 in wages, compared to others each month. One evening, Qin Yong and Zhang Xiaolong were drinking and playing chess together. Qin Yong, being a member of the Dalian faction, ended up verbally abusing Zhang Xiaolong, who belonged to the Heilongjiang faction, for reasons unknown. After Zhang Xiaolong's scolding, he grabbed a knife, intending to harm Captain Li Chengquan. Learning of this, Li Chengquan physically attacked Zhang Xiaolong, threatening to throw him off the ship. Terrified, Zhang Xiaolong immediately knelt down, apologizing to the captain. Witnessing the incident, Liu Guiduo pleaded on Zhang Xiaolong's behalf. The situation was resolved, but Zhang Xiaolong held a grudge against Xia Qing. The wage dispute and the fight worsened the crew members' negative emotions. Their demanding physical work was coupled with psychological strain, hindering productivity. While other fishing vessels finished their work by morning, ship number 268's crew toiled until noon. Captain Li Chengquan's outburst no longer fazed them. They grew accustomed to scolding. They worked until around 2 p.m., rested briefly, and resumed work in darkness. Lack of sleep prevented their full recovery, trapping them in a vicious cycle. Liu Guiduo, being intelligent, calculated constantly. He had previously taken an advance payment to buy cigarettes, earning a meager monthly salary. After doing the calculations, Liu Guiduo realized that not only would he not earn a single penny, but he might also end up owing money to the company. As a result, he couldn't work properly anymore. He began secretly discussing with members of the Heilongjiang faction. One day, Liu Guiduo approached Captain Li Chengquan privately and said, "Captain, I know you're just working for someone else. Take me back home. I know a lawyer, and I will seek compensation from the company." However, the captain's response left Liu Guiduo utterly disappointed. "If the fishing quota isn't met, none of you can expect to return. No fishing boat will take you back as you are illegal workers. Whether you like it or not, you have to keep working." Liu Guiduo felt devastated upon hearing this. He had hoped to earn enough money on this trip to bring his girlfriend home, but now he not only faced a loss of earnings, but also had to repay advanced wages. According to the contract, crew members must bear the costs of returning during the voyage. The money they earned isn't sufficient to cover basic expenses. In other words, they were all bound together on this boat, unable to escape. Even if they filed a lawsuit, it would be a lengthy, exhausting, and difficult process. Some noticed the fake seal on the fishing company's contract, a detail they overlooked while signing. Bod, a member of the Inner Mongolia faction, couldn't bear it any longer and approached the captain to request to go home, only to be firmly rejected. Unlike the composed and meticulous Liu Guiduo, Bod was straightforward and hot-tempered. Liu Guiduo proposed calculating the fishing boat's route to help everyone return home. He gathered everyone to discuss the settlement plan, meticulously considering the operation's details. They would wait for the boat to refuel before taking action to avoid fuel shortages during inspections. Upon returning, they must destroy communication devices to avoid detection by the company. They hid sharp objects and kept management members out of the plan. Though inexperienced in boat operations, they decided to spare Captain Liu to have someone navigate. Liu Guiduo incorrectly stated that killing in international waters isn't illegal, unaware of prosecution depending on the vessel's flag state. Despite doubts, they proceeded. On June 17th, while refueling in Peruvian waters, they deemed it the right time to act during the captain's sleep. The operation officially began at 11 p.m. Huang Jinbo hid the knives in the kitchen, preparing for any potential fire and supporting with a short knife. Wang Peng, who had some knowledge of equipment operation, was responsible for disabling the communication devices and positioning system on the ship. Xiao Liu Chengjie stood guard at the staircase leading to the captain's quarters on the third floor to prevent others from forcibly entering. Liu Guiduo, Bo Dai, Shuangxi Daifu, and 4 others stormed into the captain's quarters on the third floor. They firmly restrained Captain Li Chengquan. After their demand to return was rejected, Liu Guiduo took out a knife and stabbed it into the captain's thigh. The other 3 joined in the assault. Soon the crew members in the cabin were severely beaten, and a few were tied up with ropes. Liu Guiduo demanded that Captain Li Chengquan must return the ship, or else he would be thrown into the sea. Under coercion, Li Chengquan had no choice but to agree. From wealth to sudden riches. When Wang Haibo and high-ranking official Wang Yinglong heard the commotion from the captain's quarters, they wanted to go upstairs to check the situation. However, they were stopped by Jiang Xiaolong and Liu Cheng, who were guarding the staircase. The 3 of them realized the situation was unfavorable and began to persuade the 2 blocking their path not to act impulsively. Upon hearing this, Liu Guiduo became furious and expressed a desire to retaliate by killing the 2 individuals. Sensing the danger, Wang Haibo immediately compromised and stated that he would be responsible for starting the ship. Just as Wang Haibo was combing his hair, Qin Yong rushed over, holding a kitchen knife in his hand. He shouted, "These bastards still want to expose me. Today I'll kill you all." Jiang Xiaolong, who was guarding the staircase, had a past conflict with Qin Yong, and considering that Qin Yong had a knife, he didn't immediately rush forward. Instead, they engaged in a verbal confrontation while maintaining a certain distance. Jiang Xiaolong, in preparation to go upstairs, stabbed Qin Yong in the back with a knife, quickly grabbing the blade in retaliation. Amidst the struggle, Liu Cheng, on the side, raised an iron rod and struck Qin Yong's left leg, causing him to kneel on the ground. Jiang Xiaolong then took the opportunity to stab Qin Yong in the chest. On July 4th at 4 p.m. and July 5th at 6:30 a.m., Liu Guiduo used the captain's satellite phone to call his girlfriend, the calls being intercepted. After over 110 attempts, they finally reached Captain Li Chengquan. 4 days later at 8:30 a.m., Li Chengquan didn't reveal the truth, instead reporting the boat's safety. Malfunctioning communication equipment caused the loss of contact. They were near Hawaii, en route home. Liu Guiduo disabled the communication and tracking systems again, isolating the boat. His behavior changed. He grew paranoid, intruding on conversations and detesting whispers. The atmosphere turned tense and terrifying. Strict measures were enforced, tools confiscated, life rafts secured with steel rods, and life jackets seized. Liu Guiduo and Inner Mongolia gang members crafted homemade knives using boat plants, their feet, abrasives, and grinding wheels. These knives were carried by 9 individuals: Liu Guiduo, Zheng Xiaolong, Yu Chengjian, Jinbo, Wang Peng, Bao Dai, Shuangxi, Da Fu Shun, and Ding Ning. These 9 leaders became the new managers on board the boat. Liu Guiduo and Bao Dai took turns with their respective teams for duty. Bao Dai, along with Jia Xiaolong, was in charge of daytime shifts, accompanied by Wei Dao and Jinbo Shuangxi. Liu Chengjian takes the night shift, and each crew member carries a knife to patrol and monitor others. Wang Peng and Ding Yumin operate the boat together, while Liu Guiduo and Bao Dai remain wary of each other. They separate the Heilongjiang and Inner Mongolia factions as a check on each other. On July 20th, aboard vessel numbered 268, 2 in the waters west of Hawaii, Liu Guiduo notices unusually high fuel consumption. There are large and small fuel engines on the boat, with the larger ones being more fuel efficient. Worried about insufficient fuel for the return journey, Liu Guiduo instructs the chief engineer to use the smaller engine, but it's claimed to be malfunctioning. Liu Guiduo suspects sabotage by Dong to hinder their return. He also observes Wang Bo, Yue, Liu Gang and others gathering and whispering, reportedly conspiring against him, as informed by his uncles. Liu Guiduo decided to involve his uncle and younger brother. With 8 people in the management team, eliminating the remaining 5 seemed nearly impossible without assistance. Liu Guiduo sought help from his younger brother, who agreed to the plan. They aimed to render Wang Yong unconscious, while Liu Gang dealt with the other 6 individuals attempting to escape. Liu Guiduo perceived them as a threat to his younger brother. Bao Dai, Xing Ye, and Mei Lin Sheng formed an alliance with Liu Guiduo, Yue Peng, and Wang Haibo, but not with the others. The operation began that evening, with Liu Guiduo using music to create a diversion. Wang Peng and Mei Ling Sheng guarded the cabin, while Huang Jinbo orchestrated DL's movement, bringing him to the cockpit under the pretext of a swap. At this moment, Wang Bo was completely unaware of everything that had just happened. He was sound asleep in the cabin with 12 people. Gao De and Liu Chengjian entered the crew's cabin and called Wang Yong's room. Wang Yong was unresponsive and tried to grab a knife, but ended up falling to the ground. Liu Guiduo also entered the crew's cabin. He repeatedly stabbed Wang Yong on the ground until he showed no reaction, and then threw him into the sea. The killings continued into the early morning. Liu Guiduo, Wang Bo, Shuangxi, and Dave condemned Jiang Tao in the priority deck and threw him into the sea while he was injured. In the midst of it, they suddenly thought that perhaps they could borrow some money before eliminating the person. So Liu Guiduo and Jin Bo called Chen Guojun to the front deck of the fishing boat and demanded his bank card. However, Chen Guojun did not hand over the bank card. Then, Ma Yu was forcefully pushed into the sea. Despite searching the ship 3 times, they couldn't find him, although his belongings remained in the cabin. Chifeng explained that Ma Chao was mentally unstable and likely jumped into the sea due to the previous night's events. Liu Guiduo instructed Mei Lin Sheng and Wang Peng, who didn't have murder cases, to demand bank cards from their Uncle Jun. Reluctant, they stabbed him, causing him to bleed to death. Later that afternoon, Liu Guiduo instructed Feng Xingye, Mei Lin Sheng, and Wang Peng to call Wu Guoji to the aft deck of the fishing boat. The heavily indebted Wu Guoji couldn't come up with the money and was forced to jump into the sea. Liu Guiduo and the others were in a frenzy of killing. This mad killing spree lasted from the late night of July 20th until the afternoon of the next day. As a result, 9 people lost their lives, and 1 person went missing. Including the previously murdered undead, a total of 11 people disappeared from the ship. There are now 22 people left on board. The big gift package still includes Captain Li Chengquan, Fu Yizhong, Ji Gang, and Kui Yongyuan. Out of fear, Kui Yongyuan approached Jiang Xiaolong, expressing a desire to join Liu Guiduo's Heilongjiang gang. Xiaolong, who had murder cases on his hands, didn't want Kui Yongyuan to join. He didn't believe that killing people on the high seas was legal, and he himself had no way back. But Kui Yongyuan was different. He was innocent. In response to this goodwill, Kui Yongyuan said that if he wasn't allowed to join, he might never be able to return. Everyone doubted that Liu Guiduo would really use the money for their escape. Liu Guiduo's seizure of power also aroused discontent among the Inner Mongolia gang, and they began secretly plotting to overthrow Liu Guiduo's control over the fishing boat. On July 24th, Pod quietly approached Jinbo and provoked him by saying that Liu Guiduo planned to only take 2 or 3 fellow Heilongjiang villagers to Japan and kill the rest. Jinbo was no ordinary person either. He deliberately stabilized the situation and said that Liu Guiduo was heartless and ungrateful. Even I had to call home to ask for money. I joined you, and it was a fatal mistake for Pod. He mistakenly believed that Liu Guiduo's confidant, Jinbo, could be swayed. This Jinbo hailed from Inner Mongolia, and like the Inner Mongolian group consisting of Baode, Shuangxi, Dafushun, and Baocheng, was also of Mongolian ethnicity. So Pod tried to indirectly win over Jinbo as his ally. Although Jinbo was from Inner Mongolia, he valued his friendship with Liu Guiduo more. Jinbo informed Liu Guiduo about the situation, giving him an opportunity to act against Pod and the others. Liu Guiduo confronted Captain Li Chengquan, manipulating him by falsely accusing Bao Tu of orchestrating the retaliation against Wang Yong. With cunning tactics, Liu Guiduo gained the captain's resentment towards Bao Tu. Locked in the cockpit and unaware of the killings due to loud music, Li Chengquan discovered the truth when he saw the missing crew members and realized Wang Bo's fate. Blinded by anger, Li Chengquan agreed to participate in eliminating Bao De and the others, thinking Bao Tu was responsible for Wang Yong's death. Liu Guiduo gave Kui Yong a knife, using him as bait in the crew cabin to stage a show for Inner Mongolia to observe, making it appear as if they were planning to kill Kui Yong. Due to his lack of trust in the new recruits, Liu Guiduo ordered Jinbo and Liu Chengjian to ambush in a concealed location and act accordingly. That evening, Liu Guiduo went alone to the crew cabin where Bao De and the others were located. He told Pod that the captain wanted to join us, but to join us, blood must be shed. He asked Pod to kill someone for that purpose. So I asked the captain to kill Kui Yong, but now we need your military knife to lend to the captain for a while. Afterwards, will need your help in tricking out the expenses so that the captain can kill him. In accordance with Pod's agreed proposal, he handed over the knife and accompanied Liu Guiduo to the deck. As soon as he saw the captain on the deck, he turned around to go find Kui Yong, but he was immediately attacked by the captain. After disposing of Shuangxi and Dafushun, Liu Guiduo and the others forced Baocheng to jump into the sea. Only 16 people remained on the boat. Liu Guiduo claimed he no longer wanted to kill, but his words held no trust. The next morning, the engine room flooded, causing the boat to lose power and tilt. Investigation revealed tampering with the transmission and relay, with Daguanyuan Long being the only one with access. Wang Yong was nowhere to be found, presumed to have jumped overboard. Urgently, Liu Guiduo ordered everyone to use a water pump, but the flooding persisted. They tied floating objects together to create rafts, placing food on top as a makeshift survival plan. Liu Guiduo instructed the captain to activate communication devices and send distress signals for help, hoping for assistance in their dire situation. Liu Guiduo hoped that rescue personnel would arrive quickly, as he didn't want to meet his end in the cold sea. The group worked together to complete the construction of the makeshift rafts, planning to put some food on them. However, at that moment, Songguo Shipyard and Yumin, who were hiding in the belly of the tree, had already put on life jackets and jumped onto the rafts. They quickly cut the ropes tethering the rafts to the fishing boat and swiftly moved away. The people on the boat started shouting in panic. Liu Guiduo rushed over upon hearing the commotion, but he could only watch as the 4 individuals floated away on the raft, his eyes vacant as he sat on the deck. Just when everyone was feeling despair, the fishing boat ceased its sinking. When Liu Guiduo woke up, he realized that the engine room had stopped flooding. The boat was now motionless and unable to function, drifting with the ocean currents. Earlier, when they sent out the distress signal, they had indicated that there were 15 people on board, but now 4 had escaped, leaving only 11 remaining. To shift blame and divert suspicion, the group accused the escaped individuals of the killings. However, they noticed the raft drifting back towards them. Liu Guiduo commanded everyone to grab squid-smashing hammers and violently attack the 4 on the raft. One person from Fuyu Shipyard jumped into the sea, leaving Ding and another on the plank. Zhang Xiaolong, armed with a harpoon, also jumped onto the raft. When the whale was injured, it too plunged into the sea. The injured individuals struggled, attracting sharks due to the scent of blood. After the massacre, the ship's population decreased from 33 to 11. Stranded due to engine failure, they awaited rescue. Fearing punishment, Liu Guiduo and the others prioritized concealing their crimes. They held a crew meeting, crafting a unified statement recorded by Huang Jinbo. Each member memorized it, meticulously cleaning the entire fishing boat. In 2011, Super Typhoon Meihua caused a delay in rescue vessels' arrival. Finally, on July 29th, a Chinese fishery administration ship towed the Lurongyu 2682 back. Rongcheng City dispatched 2 powerful fishing boats for assistance. On August 12th, after reporting to the Fishery Bureau, the ship docked safely, greeted by a bus, ambulance, and armed police. Subsequently, police cars arrived, and each individual was taken separately for questioning. Despite their prearranged lies, they faced interrogation based on falsehoods. Regarding the details, each person provided different accounts. Additionally, the police conducted tests and found a large amount of fluorescent bloodstains, residues, traces, smears, drips, and wipe marks inside the cabin, which matched the missing crew members. Unable to explain certain inconsistencies, some individuals confessed to the entire truth. Over a year later, in November 2012, the case was brought to trial at the Intermediate People's Court in Weihai. After 8 months of trial, the court reached a verdict. Defendants Liu Guiduo, Zhang Xiaolong, Liu Chengjian, Huang Jinbo were found guilty of intentional homicide and hijacking the vessel, and were sentenced to death. Defendant Li Chengquan was found guilty of intentional homicide and sentenced to death. Defendant Wang Peng was found guilty of intentional homicide and sentenced to death, with a 2-year reprieve. Defendant Feng Xingjian was found guilty of intentional homicide and sentenced to life imprisonment. Defendant Mei Pingshui was found guilty of intentional homicide and sentenced to 15 years in prison. Defendant Xiang Ligang was found guilty of intentional homicide and theft and sentenced to 5 years in prison, along with a fine of 10,000 RMB. Defendant Duanji was found guilty of intentional homicide and sentenced to 4 years in prison. With this, the tragic case of the Lurongyu 2682 came to a close. Prior to the ship's departure, the maritime master and another crew member, Wang Shubing, chose to disembark at the last moment, thus avoiding the disaster. How did ordinary people on the ship turn into ruthless murderers? I understand that life and death are a blessing, so why would they cry out for killing? Why did the perfectly fine ship undergo a mysterious major repair before setting sail? The occurrence of these bizarre events undoubtedly added a touch of mystery to the Lurongyu 2682 incident. Subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon for the latest updates and notifications.